Tonight on KGW News, relief for a family of hikers.
Oh yeah, they were facing quite a challenging ordeal.
How they were rescued off the slopes of Mount Hood after 24 hours stranded in the snow. Plus, the murder of a Portland Uber driver leads detectives to bust members of a notorious gang. Then later, the West Coast women's champions piloting their way straight to the big dance.
We have nothing to lose, so we'll go out there and hopefully give it our all.
Good evening, everyone. Let's get right to breaking news and a tragedy in North Portland. That is where police say a 4-year-old child was killed in a crash. He was a passenger in one of two cars that collided around 9 this evening on North Fessenden Street near Mohawk Avenue. 2 adults and 2 other children were also injured and taken to the hospital, but are expected to survive. We do not know yet what caused this crash. Police say the drivers involved stayed at the scene. We will keep working to learn more and update you when we have new information. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. We continue at 11 with a familiar debate for Portlanders around a plan to add a sanctioned homeless camp next door. This time we're talking about the Montavilla neighborhood and a village the county's been trying to get off the ground for a couple of years. Catherine Cook was at that meeting tonight. Catherine?
David, county officials say the village is set to move forward. That's not up for debate, but they still want to talk about their plans with neighbors and get as much feedback from them as they can, including concerns. Many who live in the area have a lot of them. Wednesday night in Southeast Portland's Montavilla neighborhood.
Tonight's really about listening to concerns you have.
Neighbors sounded off over the county's idea of putting a community village near their homes.
I take the issue of people being trapped in houses next to something that's going to destroy their property values.
The proposed Montavilla Community Village will sit at Southeast Oak and 82nd Avenue. That's where an old RV dealership used to be. The county owns the property now. The village would have space for 40 people with 29 sleeping pods. It would have space for parking, trash services, showers, restrooms, laundry, and a communal kitchenette. Community feedback ran the gamut.
I'm in favor of resources for our neighbors, and I'm excited to meet more of my neighbors, both housed and unhoused, and I intend to be present at that village community site.
I am not concerned about the people that are going to be in these safe rest villages. I am concerned about what is going to go on outside of the boundary. We have numerous, thank you.
Neighbor John Leslie shares that concern.
We've got notice that it was going to happen, and then outside of that, it was just you're along for the ride.
He's worried the housing village will serve as a beacon for unwanted activity.
It will be a place that will draw lots of homeless, lots of drug users, which brings the people who sell the drugs, which brings the criminals who are attached to that.
We have to design the Montavilla Community Village to help respond to those concerns.
Dan Field is director of the Joint Office of Homeless Services. They started planning the village back in 2022. The county's Board of Commissioners delayed voting on it late last year because they wanted more community feedback. Since then, the Joint Office has been working with neighborhood and business leaders to create a good neighbor agreement. It's something Field says they take seriously with every housing village in the city.
And we're working every day to make sure those providers, the nonprofits that are serving those sites, that they're meeting their obligations and making sure that the agreement we have in place with them is honored every day.
Another step in addressing a homeless crisis that remains in full view. The county will hold one more community meeting on the housing village next month. It'll be April 3rd at the Montavilla United Methodist Church. As for the timeline after that, the board is set to approve construction on the project April 11th. They'll break ground over the summer with completion slated for late December. David.
Yeah, still important to have these conversations ahead of time. Thank you, Catherine. New tonight, a family of 6, including 2 children, are recovering after being stuck for 24 hours in the Mount Hood wilderness. They reached the command post at 7:30 tonight, tired but okay. They'd started their hike Tuesday on the Salmon River Trail near Welch's and traveled some 8 miles, gaining more than 3,500 feet in elevation. They ended up stuck in several feet of snow and managed to call for help just as it was getting dark to say they were disoriented and lost. Now, tough conditions meant the first rescuers couldn't reach them on foot until early this morning. The snowcat crew followed up and drove several hours through the rough terrain.
They're dealing with lots of snow on the ground even still. There's down trees that our folks had to clear to get to them. A lot of elevation change, very condensed trails. So yeah, they were facing quite a challenging ordeal.
Well, fortunately, no one was hurt, including a 9 and 11-year-old. Officials are reminding people after this rescue and another earlier this week to be aware of hazardous conditions and understand there's still lots of snow in parts of our area. Glad they're okay. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines, a manhunt is on for an escaped inmate and another man who opened fire on corrections officers at a Boise hospital. The inmate was being loaded in a vehicle to be transferred from a hospital back to prison when an accomplice, authorities say, started shooting. 2 officers were hit. A third was grazed by a shot fired by a responding Boise police officer. Authorities say this was a planned, coordinated attack that started with the inmate injuring himself so he could go to the hospital. Both men are considered armed and dangerous. 4 gang members are now in custody in connection with the Portland shooting death of an Iraqi refugee. 23-year-old Zulfikar Masir was working as an Uber driver when he was shot and killed in 2020 in Northeast Portland. Police think Masir was accidentally murdered in a gang-related ambush meant to target someone else. Today, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced that 4 men from the Hoover gang are now in custody. They all made their first appearances in federal court and face multiple charges, including murder in the aid of racketeering. And Portland police have arrested a man who was wanted for a 2022 murder and then last month allegedly shot a witness to that crime. Officers arrested 23-year-old Jacob Fitzgerald on Monday. They say Fitzgerald, who was homeless, shot and killed Otis Abner in the East Columbia neighborhood in August 2022. He is now facing murder and attempted murder charges.
That's why today's investment is such a big deal. We will enable advanced semiconductor manufacturing to make a comeback here in America after 40 years.
Well, it is an $8 billion investment specifically to Intel across 4 states, including Oregon. Ashley Graham says more on what the big announcement might mean when it comes to growing the Silicon Forest.
Billions of federal dollars are coming to Intel.
I'm thrilled to announce the latest public-private partnership and one of the largest investments in semiconductors in the United States ever.
President Biden announcing Thursday $8.5 billion will fund the modernization and expansion of Intel facilities in Arizona, Ohio, New Mexico, and Oregon.
10,000 manufacturing jobs.
The Biden administration saying this money will bring thousands of permanent jobs and construction jobs to Intel's campus in Hillsboro, Oregon. The money comes from Biden's CHIPS and Sciences Act. The president signed that $280 billion package into law back in 2022. Funds are focused on bringing semiconductor manufacturing back to American soil. This video from the inside of Intel's Hillsboro facility. The company touting Oregon's Silicon Forest as a hub for semiconductor research and technology development.
These investments, our investments, are powering the next great chapter of American innovation.
Intel also promising to invest billions of dollars with the help of a U.S. Treasury investment tax credit.
And we have already announced plans to invest more than $100 billion in the U.S. over a 5-year period.
Many politicians praising the investment, including Senator Ron Wyden, noting the big employment opportunities on the way. Ashley Grams, KGW News.
Portland City Council has unanimously approved a proposal from the Police Bureau to create a special team of officers to respond to protests that get out of hand. Those officers would have extra crowd control training and get paid 6% more on days they respond to a protest. This follows a lot of controversy surrounding the police response in 2020. Some civil rights advocates say they are skeptical, and many gave testimony at today's council meeting urging commissioners to vote against the proposal. Officers will begin training in May. Tonight, the KGW investigators are taking a close look at the power of homeowners associations. They found one cautionary tale that shows just how little recourse residents can have when they disagree with their board. In a new report, We'll take you to a Beaverton neighborhood where homeowners say they have been fined for things like having a mother-in-law living with them and for woodworking in the garage. And when they tried to call a meeting to fight the HOA board, they say the president went and changed the rules, making it harder for them to vote.
Boy, this just screams of abuse, right? Or suggests that this entire system in the wrong hands with the wrong people, serving these positions for the wrong reason, could damage a community.
The HOA president in this case told us the board needed to crack down on late dues and cut costs, and said the neighborhood was going downhill. It is a wild story. Our Evan Watson has much more on the struggle between the board and the homeowners. He talked with an attorney to find out what homeowners can do, if anything, if they face similar conflicts. You can watch his full report. It's up for you right now on KGW.com. You are watching KGW News, and still ahead at 11, how researchers say these icky, gelatinous creatures provide key clues about our marine ecosystem. But first, a heartfelt send-off from their fans as the pilots make their way into the heart of March Madness.
And our first full day of spring brought scenes of spring. That's down in Newburgh, flowering trees all over the place. And the rain is back, too. We'll let you know how much we've got and how much more is on the way. Then the weekend, a cool down, more rain and mountain snow.